Let's be honest. You didn't click on this video because you fully moved on. You're here because somewhere inside you, maybe even a small, quiet part, you're still hoping they'll realize what they lost, hoping they'll suddenly wake up, go to therapy, develop emotional awareness, and come running back with a changed heart. That maybe, just maybe, the story isn't over yet. I get it. That kind of hope doesn't come from weakness. It comes from love, from longing, from the ache of what could have been. But there's a hard truth we need to talk about today, one that may hurt in the moment, but can truly set you free in the long run. The avoidant is not coming back, at least not in the way you're wishing for, not with emotional availability, not with consistent love, not with the safety and closeness you've been craving all along. Hey, I'm Jim Rohn, and this video is for anyone who's stuck in emotional limbo, still checking an ex's social media, still holding their breath for that one text, that one sign. I know the mental loops, the overthinking, the endless analyzing of every word they said or didn't say. You want answers, you want closure, and you want to believe that maybe if you just wait a little longer, or prove your worth a little more, they'll come back changed. But here's the truth we need to look at with clear eyes. Avoidant partners don't just transform overnight. Their emotional distancing wasn't about you. It was about their nervous system, their wiring, their fear of intimacy. And unless they've done deep, intentional work to face that pattern, they're not coming back in the way you deserve. If they do return, it's often temporary, a cycle, not a breakthrough. So if you've been stuck in the waiting room of an avoidant relationship, this video is your wake-up call. Not to shame you, not to blame them, but to help you see clearly so you can stop bleeding for someone who couldn't show up and start choosing the person who always could. You. If that message resonates, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. This is a space for healing, honesty, and walking away with your dignity intact. Let's talk about why letting go of the avoidant might be the most loving thing you'll ever do. For yourself? Let's take a breath together. Because what I'm about to say may hurt, but it might also be the thing that sets you free. If you're watching this video, chances are you're caught in a very familiar tug-of-war. One part of you knows the relationship with your avoidant ex was painful. You remember the emotional distance, the constant second-guessing, the shutdowns during conflict. But another part of you, the part that loved deeply, still hopes. You're holding onto the possibility that maybe, just maybe, they'll come back. That one day they'll realize what they lost, change, and return with the love you always knew they were capable of. This is what I call emotional limbo. You're technically not together anymore, but your heart still belongs to them. And in that space between holding on and moving on, it's easy to get stuck. You check their Instagram stories, analyze their last message, replay old memories in your mind, hoping to find signs of regret. But here's what you need to hear. Not out of cruelty, but out of care. The avoidant is not coming back, not in the way you want, not with emotional safety, not with consistent presence, and definitely not with the capacity to meet your needs. Here's why. Avoidant partners don't fear losing you, they fear losing their emotional independence. That's why when things started getting close, they pulled away. That's why they disappeared after vulnerable moments. That's why they felt overwhelmed when you just wanted connection. The very thing you longed to build, a deep emotional bond, was the thing they were running from. And after a breakup, the relief they feel is real. Not because they didn't care about you, but because the pressure of emotional intimacy is gone. While you're aching for reconnection, they're feeling calm again. That hurts to hear, I know, but it's important. Let me share a real example. Mia spent a year with her partner Jake, who constantly kept her at arm's length. When she needed reassurance, he'd go silent. When she tried to talk about their relationship, he'd get defensive or ghost for days. After the breakup, Mia believed space would fix things. She told herself, if I just wait and don't push, he'll miss me and come back ready. But weeks turned into months, and Jake never returned. No apology, no growth, no aha moment. Because in his mind, the breakup wasn't a loss, it was a reset. This is what so many people miss. Avoidants don't typically run back into intimacy, they avoid it. And unless they've done deep, consistent therapeutic work, they won't suddenly develop the skills to show up emotionally just because they had time away. And if by some chance they do come back, ask yourself, do you really want to be someone's second choice? The person they return to out of boredom, loneliness, or convenience? You deserve so much more than that. You deserve to be chosen with clarity, consistency, and care. Not chased only when it's easy, not loved only when it's convenient. And the first step toward that? It's not waiting. It's letting go, not because you weren't enough, but because they never had the capacity to meet you where you were. And holding on to hope for that kind of love will only keep you from finding the real thing. Understanding avoidant attachment is pivotal. Let's explore its core elements to illuminate why the relationship took the shape it did. Avoidant individuals, especially those with dismissive avoidant attachment styles, have a nervous system wired to protect themselves from emotional closeness. That's not something they consciously decide. It's often a survival strategy formed early in life, usually when connection with caregivers was inconsistent, conditional, or overwhelming. To cope, they learned, it's safer to rely on myself and stay at a distance. That mindset doesn't just vanish when they enter adult relationships. So what does this look like in practice? You've probably felt it. The push-pull dynamic is one of the most common signs. One moment they're warm, maybe even affectionate. The next, they're pulling away, physically, emotionally, or both. You might have experienced amazing connection during a weekend together, only to have them go cold on Monday. You're left wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I come on too strong? But the truth is, you didn't do anything. What you felt as intimacy, they experienced as pressure. When things got emotionally close, their attachment system went into self-protection mode. Another hallmark, disappearing when things get too real. You open up. You ask for a deeper conversation. Maybe you express a need, something totally reasonable like I'd love to feel more connected, or can we talk about how we're doing? Instead of leaning in, they shut down. They ghost. They become busy. You're left hanging, confused, and emotionally starved. And what's even harder? When they finally come back around, they often act like nothing happened. This isn't love. This is trauma bonding. It's that cycle of being emotionally deprived, then getting crumbs of connection, then craving more. Like a slot machine. You never know when or how they'll show up, and your nervous system becomes addicted to the uncertainty. Understanding this doesn't mean you blame them, but it does mean you stop blaming yourself. These patterns weren't caused by your neediness or emotional depth. They're rooted in your ex's unresolved attachment wounds. And once you can see that clearly, you start to realize you were asking for connection. Not too much. You weren't needy. You were human. Beneath the surface of so many struggles lies a common thread. The allure of the fantasy that your avoidant ex is out there missing you deeply, thinking about what they lost, regretting everything, and going to therapy to work on themselves so they can come back healed. I know that story feels comforting. It gives you something to hold on to when you're hurting. But here's the truth. It's not real. Avoidants don't usually miss closeness after a breakup. That's the part they were running from. While you were craving more intimacy, they were feeling overwhelmed by it. When the relationship ended, they likely felt relief, not because you didn't matter, but because the emotional pressure was gone. Their nervous system quieted down. They weren't living in constant alert, trying to manage the intimacy they didn't know how to handle. And let's be honest, they're probably not sitting in therapy working through their wounds so they can come back and love you better. Most avoidants don't seek out therapy unless their life starts to fall apart or they hit a major emotional wall. And even then, healing avoidant attachment isn't a 3-week process. It's years of deep work, often painful, often uncomfortable. And most don't voluntarily sign up for that just because you left. Even if they do come back, it's rarely because they've changed. It's usually because of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of losing their fallback option, fear of discomfort. And when fear is what brings someone back, it doesn't lead to long-term change. You end up right back in the cycle. Close, then distant. Hot, then cold. Letting go of this fantasy isn't about being cynical. It's about freeing yourself from false hope so you can stop waiting for someone who couldn't choose you when it mattered most. You deserve a love built on clarity and commitment, not confusion and crumbs. And that starts by facing the truth. If they really wanted to change, they would have done it when they had you. We should also discuss the tough, yet incredibly potent side of healing, taking back your power. Because right now, if you're still holding out hope, still checking their social media, still looking for hidden meanings in old messages, then a big part of you is still emotionally tied to someone who isn't showing up. And every time you scroll through their feed or reread that last text, you're giving away pieces of your energy, your focus, your peace. And here's the thing, they're not thinking about you in the way you think about them. That's not meant to hurt you, it's meant to free you. You're playing back moments and imagining what they're doing or feeling while they've likely moved on with little thought to how it's affecting you. That imbalance, it keeps you stuck. Not because you're weak, but because your heart still wants answers, resolution, or validation that you mattered. But you did matter, and you don't need their acknowledgement to confirm it. Now's the time to make a choice. Not for them, but for you. That means stop checking their social media. Mute or block them if you have to. Delete the chat threads. You already know what they said. You don't need to analyze it again. Stop stalking for clues about whether they're seeing someone else. What they do now isn't your business anymore, because every time you look back, you pause your own healing. You reinforce the idea that the story's not over, but it is. And yes, it's going to hurt. You're going to feel waves of grief, disappointment, even anger. Let yourself feel all of it. Because when you actually face that pain, instead of avoiding it, that's when it starts to release. That's when you stop being a prisoner of what could have been and start returning to yourself. Let me give you an example. Natalie spent months checking her ex's stories, hoping for signs that he missed her. One day she realized she was spending more time refreshing his feed than investing in her own life. So she blocked him, deleted their old texts, and had a good hard cry. But she also started sleeping better, smiling more, feeling lighter. That's what reclaiming your power looks like. It's not always pretty, but it's the start of coming home to you. And the moment you stop waiting for them is the moment you finally step forward for yourself. Now here's where things shift, in a way that might feel uncomfortable at first but deeply empowering once it lands. This journey you're on, it's not about getting the avoidant back. I know that might have been your goal at the start. You thought if you could just figure out what went wrong, say the right thing, or wait long enough, maybe they'd come back changed. But that path? It's not leading to healing, it's keeping you in a holding pattern, hoping instead of growing. This isn't about them anymore. It never really was. This is about you and the pattern that brought you into a relationship with someone who couldn't meet your emotional needs. The pattern that made you work harder when they pulled away. The pattern that told you love had to be earned, chased, or proven. Choosing healing means looking that pattern in the eye and saying, "Not anymore." It means understanding that someone else's inability to love you well doesn't mean you were unlovable. It means finally choosing your self-worth over your hope that they'll change. Let me give you a real example. Julia spent over a year waiting for her avoidant ex to come back. She passed up dating opportunities. She stopped journaling, stopped seeing friends, because her mind was consumed by what-ifs. Finally, one night she realized she wasn't missing him. She was missing the fantasy version of him. the one who never really showed up. So she decided to focus on healing, therapy, boundaries, friendships that made her feel safe and seen. And months later, she met someone who actually listened, communicated, and showed up consistently. That's when it clicked. The avoidant leaving wasn't a loss. It was the space she needed to find real love. And that's what I want for you. When you truly heal, when you stop looking back, you'll see it too. Their leaving, that was the gift. The wake-up call. The mirror. The moment the story changed. Not because they came back, but because you finally did. It's time to bring our conversation to a close that truly resonates. If you've made it this far, I want to first say thank you. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. Because watching a video like this isn't easy. It means you're facing some real pain, asking hard questions, and, most importantly, getting honest about what's not working. And that alone, that's a powerful step toward healing. We've covered a lot. We started by addressing the difficult truth. The avoidant is not coming back. Not in the way you're hoping for, not with emotional safety or lasting change. We explored how avoidant attachment works, why they pull away when things get close, and why clinging to hope can quietly keep you stuck in a loop of emotional starvation. We talked about the importance of letting go of the fantasy, the illusion that they're out there missing you in the way you're missing them. Most aren't doing deep emotional work after the breakup, and if they do come back, it's often out of fear, not transformation. Then we focused on reclaiming your power, choosing to stop checking their social media, letting yourself grieve fully, and stepping away from the cycle that has kept you small. We ended with the most important message of all. This isn't about them. It's about you. It's about breaking patterns, choosing self-worth, and making room for the kind of love that doesn't leave you questioning your value. Here's what I want you to remember. You are not too much. You are not unlovable. You simply loved someone who couldn't meet you where you are. And now, your healing is not a waiting room. It's a doorway. Thank you so much for watching this video. If something I said resonated, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content. I post every week on attachment, healing, and how to create relationships rooted in emotional security. And I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me what part of this video spoke to you most. Your story matters, and sharing it might just help someone else take their first step toward healing too. You've got this. Keep going.